Hi Sudeep, thank you so much for joining us today on Condense Streams.
Hi Yash.
Um, Glad to finally be speaking with you. What we wanted to touch on today is data streaming as a market broadly,
Yeah.
right? We have in previous videos spoken about mobility and more specific applications, but we want to sort of understand where the entire market is going to in the coming years and what are the trends that we're seeing
Yeah.
from a more horizontal lens as compared to speaking about a specific industry here. So recently we've seen a lot of data privacy and democratization laws coming up in both
Yeah.
India and in the EU and so on.
Yeah.
How do you think this would impact data streaming and more specifically BYOC, which is something that we have put a lot of effort
Yeah.
towards and a lot of emphasis on?
Yeah. Yeah, perfect. I think with the laws coming in, with the larger enterprises especially that we work with, I think BYOC will definitely be the winning kind of model, because a lot of these enterprises tend to have uh, cloud organizations set up, cloud teams already set up, have fairly large contracts with the cloud providers. And with a model like ours, where Condense deploys straight away on the customer's cloud, I think it only helps them kind of have the security guardrails set up around Condense, right? With smaller orgs, that's interesting. I feel there is still space for SaaS to exist, but the way we offer Condense today is we offer it more in a single tenant SaaS kind of a way. And why is that? Because when you look at any streaming technology, you tend to look at the data plane and the control plane. All right, and some of the providers out there and some of the products we've seen, the control plane seems to be more centralized and every customer gets their own data plane. But with Condense, what we've done is we've packaged both of these together and we deploy it one deployment per customer. So when we talk of smaller enterprises, we would still do single tenant SaaS deployments where where Zeliot manages the cloud for that customer dedicatedly. And I think this works well for smaller enterprises, especially with the laws coming in, the way we deal with their data, isolated completely from other environments. I think we'll get a lot of buy-in from smaller enterprises in offering single-tenant SaaS as well. And our ethos has always been to keep the data isolated as much as possible. A lot of the privacy laws, etc., that we've kind of formulated in the way we handle customer data is core to the way we've built Condense. So I think it'll just work well with the kind of laws that are coming in.
Great. So you mean to say that there's space for both SaaS and for both BYOC kind of offerings,
Sure, yeah.
and basis the customer's requirements,
Yeah.
we should be able to service both.
Yeah.
And the data privacy laws that are coming up should also give our customers more security in trusting a player like us. Data privacy laws combined with our own internal hygiene, our own internal processes and standards that we set.
Sure, because we'll always stay compliant to the laws, and that should give customers confidence that your data is safe with us, even if we are offering you a SaaS kind of an environment.
Great. The next question I kind of had was on Kafka. We did start off as a company that was centered around Kafka, and it is a protocol that takes up 40% of the data streaming, real-time data streaming market today.
Yeah.
Do you see this changing, and how do you think this change would impact the data streaming industry and Condense as a product going forward?
Yeah, so Condense is not just a managed Kafka kind of a product, right? So the trend that we've seen in the industry from quite some time is that managed Kafka has existed for a long time, right? So you've seen managed Kafka offerings where you have a broker which is enabling you to stream data in, get data out, and so on. I would say Kafka is more of an architectural component of Condense. It enables you to stream data. Condense fundamentally uses Kafka to enable enterprises to do more with their streaming data, right? And definitely, since Kafka is known technology, it has been adopted by majority of the enterprises out there, especially in the streaming market space. I think the fact that we use Kafka under the hood kind of helps, it makes it that much easier for enterprises to adopt Condense, and also makes it super simple to migrate from their existing workloads. But we see some great technology apart from Kafka also coming in. So Condense might not always use Kafka under the hood for some of the use cases going into the future, because we are not selling it as managed Kafka. We are a data streaming platform that happens to have Kafka. So I think for now, staying put with Kafka is great. It's a great technology. But having said that, if there are better alternatives in the future, or if we come up with something internally, I think we'd be open to switch and ultimately give a better streaming experience to our customers.
And where do you see AI playing a part in all of this? So for our viewers, we already have a separate video on AI that I've made with our CEO Anup. But if you could touch upon this briefly, more specifically, how AI can be used to drive organizational outcomes and how we can enable enterprises in their building of AI models and AI requirements and so on.
Great. So when you look at AI currently today, I think some of the biggest use cases are how you can build out apps in a few seconds, right? And then host them and then build your own SaaS application.
Yeah.
What that is really doing, the way I see it is AI has kind of democratized software development to some extent. It has allowed non-technical people to hop on, develop a great app, test it out, and roll it out to customers and then future and enhance it in the future as well. The way we see AI is in two parts. One is how could we do something similar in the data streaming space? So how can we use AI within Condense to enable building data streaming apps simpler, right? And essentially enable the likes of non-technical folks to build data streaming applications. So AI used to enable building more data streaming and essentially enabling the usage of Condense better. That is one way of looking at it, and we have a bunch of agents that we'll be launching that will make it easier to build with Condense, right? So it's basically using AI to make it easier to use our own product. That is one side of the story which we already embarked upon. There is another interesting side to this story, and especially with the streaming landscape and the way it is changing around verticalization, building data streaming for specific industries. I see there is a lot of scope in having agents, models, etc. within Condense that solve very specific industry problems out of the box. Right? Do we do it ourselves? Do we partner? There are multiple ways that we could go about it. So I'm very excited about the kind of agents that could say tomorrow sit within Condense that are not solving data streaming problems, but are solving industry specific problems, which could be built by the customers themselves, or we could have partners build it for them. So I think that's a great space, and I think that's the way this whole technology of streaming is going to proceed, wherein it will not be a very generic kind of a streaming platform. I think the real value of, and also with AI coming in, the real value would be when it solves industry specific problems and does it at scale and does it securely.
So something we saw in the early days, right, was we kind of did find it a bit of a challenge to convince customers to stop building in-house and then trust a third-party player like us.
Yep.
I feel like that is a hurdle we've crossed now.
Yep.
But as developers become more comfortable with data streaming technology and so on, what do you think is really driving these enterprises to continue coming to a third-party player like us? Is it enough to just say that we are a streaming platform and this is a product for you, or do we have to do much more than that? What is really driving buying behavior?
Yeah, like I said, I think, of course, with some of our early enterprises, there's always this build versus buy kind of a discussion that we tend to have. When you look at technology like streaming, and you look at larger enterprises, right? So, I mean, initially it made me think, why would somebody build this in-house? Because your core focus should be on solving your industry use case and not spending engineering effort into developing the platform and maintaining it. And that was the fundamental idea behind Condense, right? So we thought, let the enterprises focus on the business problem at hand, and we would take care of the infrastructure management and the cloud management and so on. That's how it started. But of course, when you're a smaller organization, when scale is not really a problem to start with, I think a DIY approach works well for small enterprises. But as the load grows, it really starts becoming an overhead to manage the infrastructure, and you would rather buy it than build it. But again, with AI coming in and with the way streaming technology is being perceived, I think it's no longer enough to do just that either. You need to get one step closer to the industry problem. Right?
Yeah.
And that means speaking the language that your customer speaks. If you go ahead and tell somebody, this is Condense, you could create your own topics and you could partition data a certain way. That's not the language, or that's not what they want to hear. More often than not, they want to hear, if you're talking to somebody in the mobility industry, they want to hear how you can digital twin your vehicle using Condense? How can you digital twin your fleet using Condense? And I believe having industry specific connectors, transforms is the way that we can kind of speak their language, right? If we have connectors that helps you ingest data natively out of vehicles and you don't have to engineer that. If you have transforms that can stream those real life conditions, mimic an actual vehicle, and stream that back to a digital twin dashboard, I think that's the way to go. So we've come from just looking at players adopt just Kafka to now look at having a more centralized streaming platform. But then when the streaming platform starts solving industry problems, I think that is the logical next step for us and for the industry as a whole.
And do business outcomes in your interactions with customers, like say cost saving and time to market and so on, are these still critical considerations, or are they willing to say compromise on these to some degree if we are able to provide a vertical solution, as you've spoken about?
I feel a vertical solution implicitly solves for time to market in some way, right? Because if it's an actual true industry problem that you're solving with your platform out of the box, you could always go ahead and say, you know what, we have, for example, a fraud detection model built in, and you don't have to engineer the fraud detection model all by yourself. So you would rather just buy this, and that solves time to market in a way, is what I feel. So I think when you're kind of solving for both. When you kind of look at verticalization, you're explicit or implicitly rather solving the time to market problem. How do you do it securely with a lot of the constraints and a lot of the laws coming in? And how do you do it in a cost-efficient manner? I think those are the discussions that we generally see. But with the model, the kind of go-to-market model that we have, I think we've kind of fairly been able to convince customers on the BYOC front and on the security front.
So instead of customers, say, dedicating time towards engineering efforts and doing day-to-day activities, which taking a large amount of their bandwidth, they can then transition towards thinking more strategically and thinking more in terms of outcomes rather than just day-to-day challenges. It frees up the bandwidth of our customers and so on.
The analogy that I would like to bring in here is, if you are an engineer at a vehicle manufacturing company, let us say a large vehicle manufacturing company, would you rather solve for infrastructure problems? Would you rather be worried about how do I scale this system up? How do I ingest data from this particular device? Or would you rather solve problems that are actually pain points for your end customers, who are the vehicle owners, right? So I think every engineering hour that is available for a vehicle manufacturing company should go towards solving the customer's problem than solving infra problems, and that's where we come in.
It was great to be speaking to you today, Sudeep.
Thanks, Yash.
We look forward to having you here again with us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Lovely.